When you pull out a stop, that brings into play a set of pipes. There's a pipe for every note, so we have thousands of pipes in the organ. Each stop will have its own particular tonal quality and have a particular pitch as well. So you really can be like a painter with a palette, a colour palette with oil paint. This instrument is very much in the English 20th century, 21st century style, so voiced very smoothly, and really an instrument that's designed to provide accompaniment to evensong, so the voices of the choir singing every day. So the organ provides an amazing amount of colour in the accompaniment of choral music. So you also see the main part of the case here, which sits so beautifully in the middle of the cathedral on the pulpitum screen. Most of the pipes are inside that part of the case, but you can also see up in the triforium on both sides, there's also organ pipes all the way in that part of the building. I must have been about 8. And I remember we were in Coventry. It was pouring with rain and we were running through the town centre trying to find cover. We went into Holy Trinity Church and someone was playing the organ, and it was one of those lightning moments for me. I'd never heard anything quite like it. I crept up to the organ console and the guy who was playing actually let me sit and play something. And I remember reeling off one of my piano pieces and just thinking, right, this is it. I've got to learn the organ. The organ is this kind of super orchestra, and you have at your fingertips a vast array of every conceivable colour, every conceivable pitch, every conceivable dynamic. The organ's capable of everything between the quietest shimmer to the most thundering fortissimo. So here we are in the church of St Peter Mancroft in the middle of the market square in Norwich, and behind me you can see the wonderful instrument on the West Gallery built by Peter Collins in 1984. It's an absolutely striking example of North German Baroque organ building, and it's relatively rare and unusual to find such an instrument in this country. I first played this organ in 2006, so I have a long history with this place and this instrument. It's an organ that's very striking to look at, and the visual makeup of the instrument tells you something about the specification. So the central part of the organ houses the pipes for the keyboards or the manuals, and then you see on either side two very tall towers that house the pedal pipes. So talking about the makeup of this instrument, here we have purely mechanical action. So when I press down a key, I'm actually controlling the valves through the wooden linkages with my fingers that open to let the air into the pipes. So it's a very much more kind of tactile experience as a musician. You can see three keyboards here, three different divisions, and then a pedal division. And I'll just demonstrate one particular very Germanic Baroque kind of registration technique. This is a piece by Bach where you hear a very ornate melody on the top of the texture. So if I can just break down that sound that you just heard a little bit. On the lower manual, which has the melody, that's three stops together. I've got the concert pitch 8-foot rank, and then I've got a 4-foot above it. So I'll just play you the 8-foot. Then I add a 4-foot. And then on top of that, I have this very, very kind of piquant sound called the sesquialtera, which is playing for the musically minded amongst the audience. It's the 5th and then the 3rd above it. So we have non-unison registers and pitches sounding. I'll just play the sesquialtera on its own so you can really hear the colour and the kind of spice to the sound. So then all together, so the sound is made up of all of these different pitches, but the ear, it's funny, the ear doesn't hear them as different pitches, it just hears it as a different kind of colour to the sound. So here we are in Cawston Church in the middle of the Norfolk countryside. This magnificent church dates from the 15th century and has some wonderful wall paintings and some spectacular woodwork, a wonderful rood screen and some carved angels on the ceiling. The organ dates from 1813 and was built by George England. It started its life in St Stephen's Church in Norwich and then made its way here about 60 or 70 years later, and stood in the chancel on the north side for many years. It was moved in 2008 by Richard Bower to the south transept, where it remains here, and it's been beautifully restored by him with some small additions. So the tone of this particular organ is very, very much more round-edged than the sound that we heard at St Peter Mancroft, much more aligned with the sound of the cathedral organs, in fact. So we have a beautiful open diapason, and I've got also the 8-foot flute stop. So this is a very rich, sonorous sound. And then on the upper manual, this is the 8-foot flute stop. It's a real time capsule playing this kind of instrument, and a real joy to get to know it.